Hello, testing. Whoa, mic is pretty high today. Whoa, God, sorry guys. I like pulled it down and it just was waking you up. Can you guys hear me okay? It's time! Boom! Alright, let's transition over. Okay, we've got some stuff going on here. I kind of lost track of the time real quick, and so let me get my hair ready. Hello Curry, hello Rebel Star, and anyone else lurking. Let me finish this, and I need to get a drink of water, and open Twitch, and then we'll get started for tonight. How's everybody doing? Feeling better? Not so better? Alright. Okay. Alright, so welcome back to yet another stream. Today we'll be continuing our detail work. We have been painting with enamels the past couple of streams, and we are moving on and doing details and all of that. Let's see, doing okay? I hope you are well. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Yeah, just alright. Not too much good, not too much bad, just how it be. So, last time we were working on the skirt, so Vero-chan's skirt, and getting that gap all filled in. I do have kind of a status update, although it probably doesn't look like much, and keep in mind this is very like rough in progress work, so the shadings aren't there and stuff, but basically I primed over it. And then I sanded it, so like I primed over it, I did a layer of paint, and then I sanded over it again, and just kind of continuing that process of smoothing things out. And so this side you can see the shadings are kind of like not there yet because there's this lighter color that's layered on top, but it's starting to buff out, and you can see there's not quite as much visibility there anymore. Basically I'm just smoothing that surface. This side was pretty good. This one still needed some work, mainly because when I primed over it and I sprayed it, you could kind of see a ridge, and that was my main concern with this piece, is that so the back side of the skirt was a little bit higher than the front side, and so what I had to do is kind of sand down this whole thing and get it like as equal as levels as possible. And so the next time we prime over this, and the next time that we paint over it, it should hopefully, or at least be less visible, of a line kind of separating the two. It wasn't really a line that's visible, it was like a ridge that you could kind of see just where the back end of the skirt connected to the front. So hopefully this will smooth down the ridge. You can see I sanded off quite a bit of paint here. That's just to make sure that that ridge goes away, and so it'll be like a flatter, smoother surface. So that's all the updates I have on this one. It's still, again, very work in progress, but you can see, you know, we're pretty close to getting this to be one piece. And so I'm hoping after I get all that smoothed out, I can go in and correct some of these, you know, shadings that are a little light right now, and that's because we laid on that lighter color of the paint. So work to be done. Other things, didn't really have time to do much, but I did try to smooth out the other bits of these hair bands, and so we can continue on with other work. So what I'm going to do first tonight is look over these and make sure that they're smooth and, you know, good and how I want them, and then we will move on to painting some other pieces. Mainly what we'll be working on tonight are these orange slices, so we'll be filling in the line and smoothing all of that out, kind of doing somewhat panel lining. Then working on the Sakura blossom, so she's got this little base, so this is the base of the kit. We need to fill in all of these holes in the line. It should be a relatively straightforward, affair, because these are sculpted into the kit, and so really what you can do is just get your wet enamel, kind of lay it down, and then very carefully wipe away the top, and the stuff in the middle should still, the stuff in the sculpted lines should stay there. And that's kind of the case for this too, although this line is not quite as thick, so, or not sculpted quite as well. Something happened to my music. There we go. Oh, my Discord messed with it, so alright, we'll have to keep an eye on that. There we go. Should be okay now. So yeah, that's the plan for tonight. We're going to mainly focus on these two. Related also to that, we'll probably do some brief work with, I'm going to move this first because these magnets stick to everything. We might do some brief work on this little bird. We didn't do anything on it last time, and I want to get those white dots down on the eye, and so we'll probably just put, you know, a little white dot down and leave it from there. Other than that, the only thing left is the face, and so depending on how time goes, we might start working on the face. That's very ambitious. Chances are it will be later. But we might be able to do like her eyebrows or maybe her mouth. It just kind of depends on where we're at. Don't know if I'm going to do the whites of the eyes tonight, but we'll see where it goes. So we're very rapidly approaching the end of this figure building series. There's only probably a couple more streams worth for this kit, just because, you know, the face is the last part, and that usually takes a few times, a few streams just to get, you know, everything down. Also, we'll be sped up a little bit. I'm looking at this now. I was thinking, what I was thinking is I was like, I didn't think she had eyebrows, and so I was like, oh, we're gonna have to draw the eyebrows on, and that's gonna take a bit. But she has these sculpted eyebrows, and I literally just talked about them. So that will save some time too. This kit does come with eye decals, and so if you are just purchasing this kit, let me see if I can pull them out real quick, because I have them on my shelf. We will not be using decals on this, but Whoopi's kits tend to come with decals. And so they make good beginner kits because of that. And out of all the sculptors and kits that I purchased, her eye decals are some of the cutest that I've seen. And so you can see I've cut a pair here because I was kind of testing how they'd look. But they're very cute. They come with a whole set of instructions, so I can open that later when we start working on decals again. I think I showed this at the very beginning. But yeah, her eyes are so cute. We will be painting them, but I am going to use these as a reference for how to paint them, because I really like her kind of rounded eyelash style, and she's got these two little pokey eyelashes coming up out of them. And so it's just a really cute eye style that I like anyway. So, I mean, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I'm going to paint it, and I'll probably paint it similar colors as well. This is probably going into details too early, but she's got a couple of colors going on here. We have that yellow color as the base underlayer. There's an orange in the middle, and there's kind of a reddish, it's more like a dark brownish red on the top, and she has a kind of circle in the middle of her eye. That's more of a dark brown, and it matches the eyelash, and then she's got these eye shines, and there's also a lighter yellow dot right here. And so this style of eye is actually how I do tend to paint my eyes. I tend to like to paint them in kind of a strokey gradient like that. And so just looking at this is at least like 5-ish layers, because you're going to have the white, which is just the white here. Then you're going to have your eye outline. Some people have 2 layers for that. The technique tends to be to do this in orange and then go over it with an airbrush, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do. But there will be a layer for her eye outline here. Then there will be the base, which is yellow, then the orange on top, then the brown on top. Somewhere in one of those layers is probably the eye shading. And then you've got this layer, and some of these can be combined. So we could combine like the white eye shine and the yellow here, and there's different things you can do. And so that is just kind of a roadmap for where we will be going in the future. Some of these steps you guys probably will not be seeing, because depending on time and you know, to save time and to get things ahead of schedule, I may paint like, you know, 1 or 2 layers on top of each other where you won't see. But yeah, that's where we're going in the future. This is what the eye will look like. Let's see. Any reason why so many GK painters use orange to sketch out the eyes? That is an interesting question. And this is a relatively newer technique that I have seen being used. I think it has been popularized by Tsukimi Songyo, who started doing that in his videos. There is a couple of reasons for it. One of them is that when you paint the initial layer down, it's kind of like a sketch layer in orange, and when you paint on top of that, it makes like a really pleasing kind of natural color that's reminiscent of like a lot of illustrations. It also blends really well with top coat, and so what happens is that it's almost like a natural layer of shading that goes into it that adds a little bit of dimension to those eyes. What also happens is people now are tending to sketch those eyes in orange and then airbrushing on top of that, and then that way you can wipe off everything that's like within that sketched layer, and it makes it look I don't know, more realistic, more like illustration. It's really, I think it's a personal technique. Like I've never done that. Like I've only really seen it recently, and so it's just a way that you can paint eyes. I was gonna say something else. Did I talk about the shading? Yeah, I don't remember. There was maybe one other reason for it that I forgot. I just had like a brain fart. But those are two of the main reasons I've seen. What I've also seen people do recently, and that obviously doesn't apply here, is people are painting their eyes on first without painting the skin. And then they are going in with a 2K top coat, like a polyurethane clear, and coating the face that way. I think we've mentioned the 2K before, but basically that is a layer stronger than lacquer. And so people are painting their eyeballs on, sealing these in a top coat that's like ultra strong, and then going in with their clear skin tone and painting that on, and then just wiping the area around the eyes away. And then you end up with your skin tone and just the eyes. And so that's another technique I've seen being used on eyes recently, and that's very recent. I've only seen that within the past couple years. So if even that, it's more like the past like 2 years I've seen it. So just you know, you could do whatever you want in this hobby. Certainly I do things differently than you guys probably do, and vice versa, but in the end there's many ways to build kits. So that said, let's get started, and I'm gonna look at these first. These should be pretty much done. Again, I already worked on these yesterday for a brief moment, so they should all be filled in. I was also checking the color against the hair, and I think it will be fine, but I think I'm also going to have to check it once we have things fully painted, because what I might do is go in and add a layer of shading to kind of give this orange a little bit more depth. It's feeling a little bit of flat to me, which is, you know, nothing wrong with it either, but I'm so used to having everything shaded, so you might go in and shade it just a bit more. There's also, I'm gonna try something, and I'm gonna see if it looks okay on the camera, but I have this headlight that I'm gonna put on because I have been having a hard time seeing the details from this camera angle, because this is the only way I can get it without my like head being in the way. And so this might be too bright just for a second, but I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna look at the camera. Oh, I guess looking at the camera doesn't work. Let me do this. Oh, that's way too bright. Okay, never mind. Just wanted to see if it would work. It was like blinding me when I tried it, but I wanted to see if it would work for this, but it's not going to. So ignore everything I just said. We will finish up these details. The yellow eye thing, or the orange eye outline thing, is really interesting though. Just in terms of it being like something that caught on and now a lot of people do it. I can understand the rationale behind it because it's, you know, easy to put down a sketch layer and then go on top of that, but to me it feels like you're adding just another layer of paint that might not even be necessary, and so I don't know. It's an interesting thing that people have started doing. I don't feel good or bad about it either way. It's just a technique. Okay. This was pretty good. Yeah, I did work on this on my own, and it feels like it's pretty smooth, so I don't think I'm gonna mess around with that anymore. Let's take a look at the other one. Let's see. It kind of reminded me how animators would use blue pencil. Yeah, it reminds me of that too. Just like a sketch layer, and you end up not seeing it later. Yeah, it's very much like a tentative first down layer. Although people like clean it up really nice, and so to me it just seems like a lot of work, but you know, layers are layers, and so especially if you're airbrushing your gradient eye on, I can see why it would be helpful. I don't tend to do that yet. That's not a technique that I have done a lot. I have done it here and there on a couple of my kits, but it's not a regular technique that I use, the whole airbrushing the eyelash gradient. It's really nice. I feel like an example would be really helpful here, but some anime illustrations have, you got your painted eye. It's hard to explain. Let's see. I'll just use Mero-chan as an example. You have your painted eye, but on the corners of some artwork, you may notice that it's kind of like red. It fades into this reddish color, and that's how people are getting that gradient, is they have their base color that they put down, and then they airbrush, and they get that nice gradient, and then they just wipe off everything that isn't in that area. Does that make sense? So you end up with your like illustration layer on the bottom, and then your airbrush layer on top. And that's how you get that effect to make it look like an anime illustration. But not all illustrations have that. It's just certain ones. And so the technique is not, you know, used for everything. Yeah. Okay. This was pretty smooth. There was just like one or two spots that had a tiny dot. I don't know if they're visible on the camera though. I can't really see them on the camera, so that's fine. It's just like either hair or a bubble in the enamel that popped up, but they're not really in the way and affecting much. And once we lay down a gloss layer, things will kind of smooth out too. So I'm not too worried about this. So this one looks good too. I'm just gonna put this back. And what we can do now is start working on the oranges. Literally the oranges of this kit. So not the color orange, but well, we will be mixing the color orange, but these oranges. And so these have some filling in that needs to happen. What I think I'm gonna do actually is just take this pot, which is dried up now. I'm gonna reactivate it and then mix in some white and see if that works, and if I like that color. And if not, I'm just going to put white in it directly and see. I don't know what Whoopi did for these. Looks like she just used plain white, which might work too. So let's just see. I'm gonna put a small bit of white into this, and then if I like the color, then we'll proceed. Let's see. Okay. There we go. I've got some messy oil and some clean oil, so I'm just going to use some of the messy one that's kind of orange already. Excited to get that face done though. That's always the fun part. So next couple streams, it's about time. I'll have to think about photo shoots too in the near future. All right, this is pretty much good. So I am just going to put a little bit of orange or white in here. Let's see. I'm having to use these little cups very sparingly. I've almost run out of cups. I have a lot of project going on, so. This might be too light for me, but it's a good way for you guys to see the illustration of adding white to something. You know, that might be good. Let me add a little more white and we'll see. I wasn't sure if I wanted them this pure white color as the outline, that's why. So this is really more of a soft kind of, it's not cream, soft marigold. I'm just gonna very, very lightly put on a bit and see what happens. Still a little bit too dark, I think. I really want them to pop, so maybe that's why Whoopi used the white. Yeah, let's just put a bunch of white in, and then maybe I'll take some of this yellow and lightly tint it that kind of yellow color, because I did want a tiny bit of yellow in there, but that's much too dark. So let's get a bunch of white, which there might be a couple other colors showing up in here, so just keep that in mind. My pot is a little contaminated, so this has a little yellow in it already from this brush, so that probably is enough yellow. This is very thick. Let's see. Oh, that's plenty. Okay. So we wanted this kind of nice milky consistency, but not too runny. This might be a little too thick still. And I did add quite a bit of white, so. Enamel especially tends to thin really easily, so. And there's a lot of bubbles in here now because I've kind of whipped it, so this should be good. All right, let's take a look. But yeah, that's the golden term, milky consistency. I purchased a modeling book from the 80s, and because it wasn't like for kits, it was like for model trains and terrain and stuff, because I thought there might be some cool techniques. And there was a section on painting, and I had been hearing milky consistency my whole like hobby building career from pretty much everybody, and I opened this book, and even this book is like thin it to a milky consistency, and so I was like, it's even in the written word, like it's the sacred thing that modelers say. So weird. All right, let's try this one. This is mostly white. Pretty much no yellow in it. Let me just wipe some of this. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit of the yellow. Let's see. That's true. We don't want like rotten milk consistency, right? You want like smooth milk. Yeah, no chunks, please. That's disgusting. All right. Even if we get this color too dark, I can just add more white, so it's not really too big of a deal. Okay, this is like a, well, this is more eggshell white. Let's see, full fat versus skim. That is true. That is true. I think it's more just like the liquidy nature of the milk. Nobody's ever scientifically quantified that and like poured out paint and got it to the right consistency, and then poured out milk and compared them. It's just like a weird thing that we all say. So that would be something interesting to explore. All right, let's see. Is that the color I want? Probably. I feel like this is one of those things that it's just good when it dries, I'm gonna be fine with it. So for now, let's work on just filling these in. Hopefully you guys can see it. Okay. Might be a little hard to hold this one up. Oh, actually, I think I can do it. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So I'm just gonna fill these in. There's not really, not trying to be too precise because we're gonna wipe it away anyway. But I did want this paint thin enough where it just kind of fills in. And so that way it'll be easy to wipe off later. This is really similar to like panel lining if you do Gundam models or anything. It's literally just using thinned out paint or anything to fill in like sculpted lines. For a very common technique. These are, you can actually just rotate these, so. Alright, that one's more or less filled in. There's a little area over here. I think I can do a bit more. And we're gonna let that fully dry, because if we start to wipe it off when it's not fully dry, it's gonna pull paint out of the crevice that we've just filled in. So we wanna make sure that we're only touching the top. Alright, let's see, let's do this one. These are the oranges that are going to go on the sides of her sleeves. So I feel like it's been a while since we've seen her sleeves, but they are there. We just finished them a while ago. They've been sitting on my cabinet. There's a hair here, so I want to pull that out. I can wipe that away. There we go. Let me adjust my, there we go. My screen is giving me a glare, so when I go to check my stream, I couldn't see anything. What I'll probably do once we clean one of these up is bring over one of the sleeves, and that way I can test the orange slice and make sure that it's the right color inside. If it isn't, well, I might have to wipe and start over. I think this will be okay though. If it looks okay on the Whoopi promo image, I think ours is okay. And it does always look a little bit thicker when you put it on. Once we start wiping down, the line will kind of become smaller. Just because we're also hitting some of the outside. You can already see it, the paint is kind of settling on this one too, so it gets a little bit smaller. Okay, I think that's it for these two. Let me wipe my brush off. Alright, so this is not cleaned up, just filled in. You can see, I think, oh yeah, it's starting to look really cute as it dries. I can tell now. So we'll come back to this very shortly. We just have to let that paint dry. Now what we're gonna do is work on the cherry blossom and just do the same thing. We're gonna fill it in. Although, I think what I'm gonna do is I have this spare paint thing here. I've had this forever. I originally thought I was going to use this for her mouth because I saved this as like a mouth color, but I'm not sure anymore. So what I'll probably do is kind of like what we did here, I'm gonna portion off a section and then just add a bunch of white to it and see what happens. I didn't want to paint this pure white. I don't feel like that would be a good option. So, but I'm not sure if this is even in the right color scheme. So we might have to do some adjusting and stuff. Basically, I'm trying to use up colors that I've had saved for a while. So let's just see what this looks like when it's lightened up. Yeah, I'll start over here actually. This kit, like this pot goes back 2 or 3 kits at this point, and so enamel is one of those things that you can just like keep working on with. I'm actually gonna just drop a bunch in here. You can see it's already thinning out. So it's really great if you like have a bunch that you mixed and you really like that tone or that specific color. You can just let it dry in the pot or in this little cup or whatever you use and then reuse it later. Although I have noticed that sometimes the it just gets too milky, and so you have to let it dry out a little bit, and it feels like you lose some every time. So yeah, whatever. Honestly, at this point, I've mixed this so many times that I'm just gonna reactivate a lot of it. After a certain point, you paint so many, face the same one, you just gotta mix a new one. Okay. Let's see what that comes out like. Nice kind of salmon-y, pinky. Oh no, would that even be good for the face? Just gonna take a small dropper or a small bit and just, okay, get away from that. Kind of wanted to go with a little more of an orange, so we'll see. But this color is pretty cute. You know what? Before I completely kill this pot, let's just put some pink in her mouth, and if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, I'll just wipe it away, and that's fine. We'll mix a new one later. But this was my dedicated pink that I used for a lot of open mouth kits, so it might or might not work with this hair. This is very wet, so you can see that it's very wet. This means it's going to kind of pool towards the sides, and so that might not be the best option, because then you're going to end up with unevenness. So let me just wipe that up. And in that case, I'm probably going to wait to paint this for a little bit, if we do at all, just because I want to wait for this to dry out a little bit more. Over here it might be fine. Yeah, let's see. This might work, okay. Move this so the camera can focus a little better. Again, this is very tentative. I have no idea if we're gonna stick with this color. This is just because we have the pot that I use for open mouth kits over here, and this color is very cute naturally, so. It is pretty wet though. All right, so we'll let that go. We might have to put in another layer. In that case, what I should probably do is just take some white and kind of mix it over here. Don't think, honestly, it matters too much if this is slightly tinted yellow, but we'll see. Okay. I'm just messing around at this point, honestly, with what we've got. So let's take some white and take a bit of this . Oh, did my music die again? It's Discord on the fritz. Yep, I see a dot. Okay. Let's just skip. There we go. Okay, so let's see how this color works. I'm not really sure. Could be good, could be bad. You can see that this is starting to dry up, but you can see that pooling that I was mentioning earlier. So that does tend to happen if you thin your paint too much, your enamel. But that's fine. We can put another layer on and it should fix it. All right, so let's see how this one looks. It might be too kind of orangey, but oops. Actually, I think the other. The other brush might be better for this, although this one's kind of beat up, so. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, see, that's too cream. That's weird. So this is way too cream colored for my liking, which is weird because it doesn't, I mean, I guess it does look that way. When you like put it next to each other, it looked a lot pinker in the pot. So let's get that wiped up. And what I'm gonna do instead is take a new one and not use that. I guess that's why I liked that so much, is it had some orange in it. And let's see, I think what I'll have to do, do I have a pink over there? I might have a bottle of pink enamel. Let's see. Thought I did, but I guess not. But I do have magenta and yellow, so that will work. Okay, so second plan, as we continue to mix for these cherry blossoms, we'll just get some more white out of the pot. Crusty or wet white. This one's got a little bit of that orange in it because I didn't fully clean out this, but that's fine too. Okay. And yeah, this is fine. Too much magenta. Red might be better actually. Let's see. Somehow, somewhere, I end up with the color I want. Although sometimes it's like a process to get there and me just dabbing my brush in a bunch of things. A lot of color adjusting is just like getting the hang of things. Saying, oh, I need a little bit of this instead of this. As anyone asks you, you know, what your mixture is, I'm like, I don't know. I just threw stuff in and it ended up okay. Get some more white. So this is a much redder white compared to the one that we just mixed. And I'll show them side by side in a second so you guys can see, although this might still be kind of off. So here's the difference already. You can see this one is very white. This is more apparently orange. Didn't look that way, but it is. All right, let's see how this looks on the cherry blossom. That might be okay. Oh yeah, that's cute. Okay, so let's stick with this for now. You can see this is, it looks like a very hot pink on the screen, but it's really not. It is still pretty bright, but it's a cute kind of mostly white color, but it's got a little bit of pink in it, and so we're gonna fill all that in and see how it looks. Really, we're not gonna see too much of this anyway because it's at the bottom and her shoe is like blocking half of it, so. Okay, someone's. Guess I'll try to hold it like that. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. These are interesting. They're these little circles and they just fill up with the paint very easily, so not sure how full I should make these circles. Probably to the top. That one's too much paint, you can see. There's a bubble in that one. Dang. Okay, let me wipe this one out. There we go. You want to get rid of those bubbles before they form or dry up. By the time we are done filling this in, we can probably go back and fill in the face or the mouth with another layer of that pink, kind of orange salmon, I don't know. And then start working on the oranges and cleaning those oranges up. This one is just, these are all connected, so. Okay, so let me take another look and make sure I filled in everything. So there's like a spot here that wasn't totally filled in. That will be important because when we're wiping away, it won't look like a perfect circle. The rest of these look okay. Wait, maybe down here needs a little more. Yep, okay. And this one. Okay, and as this paint dries, it will probably, well, it just kind of falls into the crevice here. So again, there might be a second touch-up needed, but for now, it looks okay. Ooh, that's pretty striking from far away. It's interesting because it looks so white, but it does have that tint of red to it. All right, so let's come back to the face, which has that layer I was talking about where you can see it's not like totally flat. It's got that raised up surface. So we're gonna add another layer of the paint in it. This paint is pretty dried up now. Does not take a long time. Remember, the more layers that you put on, the thicker it gets. Okay. We'll be showing the face in more detail later. This is definitely not final. It's just me messing around. Okay, we'll just try that. I am liking it. I know there's a reason why I kept this, so we'll just stick with it for now and see. All right, so let's go back to the oranges, and what we're gonna do now is start cleaning up the details, since we just kind of took the time and filled them all in. You can see now that the paint is dry and it's mostly fallen into the crevice here. So all we really need to do is be very careful and just wipe off the top. This is where the sponge thing comes in really handy, because you can just kind of like wipe along it and avoid the middle corners. Does that make sense? So let's start with this one and just kind of see where this goes. That's a big hair. That's weird. There we go. I also have my precision cotton swabs here, which will probably make an appearance, particularly in the middle areas there. There's a lot of kitten hair here today. Usually this desk is not picking up hair. These oranges are convenient though, because you can like just rotate them. They're not really locked onto anything in the back here. They just have this magnet, so. And let's see, I'm actually gonna, there we go. This sounds very familiar. Okay, let me pull out some of my cotton swabs, because there's a couple edges I want to hit a little bit better. There we go. So cotton swab does the same thing as the sponge. It's just a little bit rougher. And I tend to use it for a good while. These are just basically nail art Q-tip or like precision cotton swabs, and so people use them for acrylic nail art, but they're pointed on the end here to some extent. Not as pointy as some other hobby brand ones, but because of that, they wipe off things pretty well. So I use these when we're not working with super fine detail, but we still need to wipe off stuff. Also, I've got like a hair in my eye, or eyelash or something. It just keeps irritating my eye. So give me 1 second. I'm telling you, after I finish the work on my desk, I'm gonna give this the thoroughest cleaning. Feels like my desk has been full and busy for months, and I just like it when it's clean. All right, I think we're good. I don't know. Yeah, that feels a little better, so maybe I got it out. I think it was eyelash. There's something here. Okay. Some of this is like imperfect sculpt lines too. That's something I always have to remind myself of when I'm working with these types of kits, is that when you fill in these details with enamel, it's not always going to be like a perfectly like smooth and even area, because these artists are also the ones sculpting things, and so there may be like a little chunk or something that they took out of one area that wasn't on the other ones, and so there's little flaws too in the sculpt itself that you just have to be mindful of. I swear there's a hair on here, I'm just like not. There we go. Okay. So this one's pretty clean. I think there's just a little bit more that I need to wipe up here on the corners. It's also why you don't want your layer too thick, because then you just start digging into your paint. Okay. Here. Oh, this side. You can see the difference though, so left and right. Left is pretty much done here, so this is what it looks like when it's filled in. There's just a very few minor spots that I'm double checking, making sure that, you know, the hair is not there, etc. This is what it would look like when it's fully painted and filled in. Thank you. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It really comes to life when you start lining things, and that's kind of what I like about the detailing step. is it feels like that's what the piece is supposed to look like, right? Because you can like do all your airbrushing and get all that out of the way and your base coats, but until you put on the final details, it doesn't look like anything. And so now this looks like an orange to me. Yeah, can't really say anything else. Let me actually pull up her, gosh, I can't think. Her sleeve, one of her sleeves. And so we can just put the orange in there and see what it looks like in the sleeve. Because that's the important test too, is to make sure that your painted pieces are coherent with everything else. Alright, I have to reach over here though. Yeah, this is the one. Alright, so this is the Whoopie Pie kit. It comes with guidelines of which pieces are which, and so we have this one, which is square. I don't know if you can tell right here, square. This one is heart. So I pulled out the square one. There we go. So yeah, this will be one side of her outfit. I don't know which one, but it looks really nice and clean and pretty cute. It will have those frills in the bottom, so we'll have a really nice kind of black or dark purple separator, so it'll look kind of like that. Starting to come together, I think. Yeah, very cute. Whoops, there it goes. Alright, put this over here. Everything starts magnetizing to everything, and so there we go. Okay, so let's do the other one now, and then we will move on to the cherry blossoms. And then we still got time for other stuff, so I guess maybe we can start the face today. Oh yeah, we have the little bird too. I'm just looking at my desk, seeing what we have to do, so. Alright, first, let's clean up the orange. Do an initial larger wipe on the sides here. What we can probably do is, oops, need to add a little more weight. I just wiped too much off. Okay. Come back to that side, so let me just rotate it. Maybe I'll just stick with my Q-tip. Oops, wrong end. There we go, that works a little better. I used to use these pretty much exclusively until I bought that sponge, so either tool will work. These are just handy because you get so many in a pack and they're disposable, so. But they are a little abrasive as well, so it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, let's do some of the center ones, and then if the outer circle here of white looks like it's too thick, we can just kind of go in and change it. But I want to make sure that these look like how they're supposed to before we take off any more white, if that makes sense. I think I'm gonna get another one of these. After a while, the cotton swab just gets kind of loaded up with stuff, so it gets a little less effective. Also, these are very not equal, and so some of them are more pointier than other ones. You kind of get a variety of things in a package because if you order these in bulk, like, there's not really any quality control. Seeing what? No, we're good. Yeah, let's get an initial wiping off, and then I'll start going in and noticing any tiny defects. This one's kind of a thick layer, so I'm gonna wipe it with a sponge. There we go. Now I can clean it up. Okay, looks like one more slice here. Alright, so let's go in a little closer now, and I'm going to inspect each of these again. Basically making sure I didn't miss any spot, that there's no white cast. And so a common thing when you're wiping off enamel is that it may look like you took it all off, but there's like a very thin layer of whatever color you put on that's left. And that kind of just tints the color of the piece a little bit. And so when you're wiping off your enamel paint, you want to really make sure that you get all of it off. So that, I think, is a slightly more intense process that some people probably skip. And that's where the sponge comes in really handy, because the sponge just kind of soaks up stuff and wipes it away. So what happens is sometimes I just go over it with a sponge really quick, but then you risk taking off some of the layer if you're not careful. Oh, there's a little bit here. There we go. Kind of rotating it at a couple of angles to make sure that I get everything. There's like a little dark dot here, but it's so minor, I don't think anybody is gonna care if it's there, and that might even have been there from the airbrushing. So there was one spot, yeah, right here. This looks a little thick, but nope, it's just the angle. That's why angles are important. Tilting it and looking at it from different angles also lets you just kind of check on the state of the panel line and see how far it raises up, etc. There is one area here on this other one that I just noticed. I'm going to try to take it off with a paintbrush. Almost got it. There we go. Basically, it just was like a little, it's hard to explain. If there was a normal curve of paint, it was like, it had a little ridge and then it continued. So we're just smoothing things out and getting them to be as circular as possible. But now it looks good. Oh, okay, over here there's some similar. Whoops, shit. So what happened is I just put some enamel thinner on here. And I think I can get by, but if you put thinner or directly on it, it's gonna melt your paint down. So I think I'll need to just put a little bit more in there now. Was not being careful with my paintbrush. There we go. No big deal. The whole point of this is just wiping off, so. And I think that was Is that the area I wanted to check anyway? I don't know. So yeah, stuff like this is why it takes me so long to build anything. There are certainly faster people than I, but I tend to like look at stuff and the details for a long time and just get it to where I feel like I like it. So okay, almost done. There's one tiny area here. It's not circular. It looks like it's kind of sculpted. Yeah. And it makes this look more like an orange slice. There we go. Actually, I could probably do it for this one too. So rather than make this directly circular, I'm just kind of pulling some paint out of the edges here to make it look like a slice a little more. But I'm not sure if I'll like this or not, so I don't think that makes too much difference, to be honest. Watch Munto paint orange slices for an hour. So exciting. Okay. Reality check. Whenever you feel like you're getting too into it, just pull back. Look at your piece from a little bit farther away. That way, anything that is immediately glaring, you'll notice right away, and a lot of the smaller stuff will fade right out of view. So you gotta keep in mind that you're the only person, unless you're building this for someone else, you're the only person that is gonna be looking at your work this intensely. And chances are, if you're taking photos, like, you're not gonna pick up a lot of the conditions that you're seeing in your kit. So you know, if you're looking at it like under a microscope, you're gonna find a lot more flaws, right? So just be kind and patient to yourself, because, you know, even if you have this in your detail, if you're looking at it from like a foot or two away, or even more away, so there's no need to get bogged down with every single tiny detail. For now, this looks pretty good to me. That's kind of where I was going with this. And so what we're gonna do now is move on to the cherry blossoms and do the same thing and get those wiped down. What will happen with this piece is it's done, and so we're going to seal it with our last top coat of gloss, and then it's ready for assembling after we put the matte on or whatever we decide to do. Yeah, in comparison, it goes pretty well so far with this, which I have not done any work on this since Tuesday, so that's gonna be its own thing. I'll probably have an update for you guys next Tuesday, although I will be pretty busy this weekend, and I have midterms coming up and a huge project. So all right, this status check on this. I don't know if I like the way that this came out. I'm gonna wipe this out real quick and probably fill it in again, and then we'll go to the Sakura blossoms. I'm shifting the plans constantly, mostly because I don't like how it filled in, and the layer is a bit too thick now, so yeah, it just kind of like soaks up. This is just the thinner on a Q-tip. Just wipe away. So let me reapply this real quick, and I'm gonna be a little bit more careful this time. And then we'll go to the cherry blossoms. Yeah, this is pretty thick now, so let's see. That should be a little better. So basically just laying down a properly thinned layer of enamel. The enamel that we put into this, the thinner, there was a little bit too much thinner, and so because of that, when you have kind of a raised surface, and that will apply to the eyes too, the thinned paint will tend to gravitate towards the edges of the outline, and so even now there's a little bit of it, but not too much. So it will gravitate kind of towards the outer edges, which is fine sometimes for eyes because we're going to be filling in the majority of it anyway with like further layers, but I like to try to get as flat of a surface as possible right away because then that just saves time and effort later. Let me put a little more in here. All right, keep an eye on that. So let's go to the cherry blossoms now. This one, I think when all is said and done, we're gonna reuse this pot. So I'm just gonna clean that one out and then use it for whatever we decide to do tonight. I only have like 2 pots left, 2 little jug things, I don't know. Metal pan, I don't know what it is. Okay, let's do, so here's what it looks like dried. Very cute again, and details will kind of sharpen once we get rid of all the extra yellow or extra whitish stuff around the edges. This is one of those pinks that looks like it's super bright on its own, but when you put it next to other things, it kind of doles out. So putting it next to like this, I guess in that camera it doesn't really, but it matches really well with the skirt so far, among other things. So that's the important part. We wanted that kind of accent pink on the bottom. Keep an eye on the face over here. It's still pooling. Maybe it's not meant to be. Okay, something's going on here. I'm not really going in any particular order here of what to erase. It's just whatever I see that catches my eye the most, and then I'll kind of clean it up from there. So I'll probably pass over these 2 or 3 times. There's some sort of ridge or maybe a paint flake. I can't tell. Sponge might help too. It's also got this wire sticking out. That's because we drilled directly through this piece, so. Oh yeah, sponge is always helpful. sponge is also non-invasive and it takes up a lot of it, so it's a really nice option. It's not in like the holy grails of things I've purchased, but this one is pretty good. So I would recommend this if you guys are enamel painting. It's highly used by Japanese modelers. It's one of those things that I probably should have bought sooner than I actually did, and so because of that I recommend it. And I don't recommend a lot of things, but this one, light curing putty, my like cutting template thing, those are all things that I use very regularly. Alright, so far so good. There's a little bit of weirdness going on over here, and I think I need to add just a little bit more paint right here. It was not looking like a nice full circle. Could be me, could be sculpting error, I don't know. We'll have to check again once it dries. Alright. Continuing with sponge. I feel like sponge is working better here. And let's go around here. That I don't know what that is. Oh, it was just a little bit thicker paint. Thought maybe it was a paint scratch, but nope. Just some extra white that got stuck. Oops, sorry guys. There we go. Actually, I'm adjusting my foot and then I kicked it, so. Okay. Ooh. That's why you're on a stick. I'm surprised I haven't dropped more stuff on this stream. I do that very regularly. Okay. Gonna go in with the Q-tip on these areas where a sponge can't reach. That's a cute emote. Yeah, that's my face most of the time when I'm building. I'm gonna need a nice, easy project after these kits I've been working on. I started on one I thought was nice and easy, and then I made it hell for myself, so. There's actually one that I've been wanting to go back to for a while, so maybe I'll strip the primer off of it and take it on as a personal. Alright, what's going on here? So this one I already tried adjusting. Now there's like a tiny hair in here. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see a hair. Okay, I have a tiny tweezers. There we go. Hold that. And still need to correct that dot. Alright, we'll leave that for now. It's getting thick in that area. Let's start working on the top up here and get that cleaned up, and then we can go back and do the precision stuff. I say that and then I start doing precision stuff. Okay, I mean it. I will do what I say. Let's do that. This song reminds me of Undertale. I don't know why. Okay. Just very, very, very lightly rubbing the top here, because that way we can get everything off in the top but not affect these layers that are indented and that have sculpting in them. That's another benefit of the sponge, is it doesn't reach very far into the kit, so you can just get surface level stuff like that. But you have to make sure your sponge is mostly dry. If it's too wet and then you're just putting enamel thinner into it, then you're gonna pull up all the paint that you just put down. All right, so that's most of the initial wipe off. So there's still a little bit that I'm gonna do here. Just again, making sure there's no white casts, that all of the circles, you know, look like circles, etc. Like here, there's a little bit of a paint bleed, so I'm gonna get rid of that. If I can. Might be a sculpt thing. Oh no, I got it. Okay. For the most part, this was a pretty clean area to fill in. I think the only one that was having trouble was this tiny dot here, and that's the one we filled in a couple times. So let me see if I can just round it out and then we'll be good. The indent sculpt here might not be as deep as the other ones, and so the paint bleeds out a little bit easier. Just looks a little uneven. Let's see. Almost there. That one. That's good. There we go. Okay, I think that's fine. Nobody is going to be examining me that close in that regard. And if you are, your standards are a little too high for me. So for now, I think that's fine. I don't see any more white cast. There was like a little nick here, but I'm not sure if that is, oh yeah, that was just some extra white. So that's fine. The underside is also mostly fine. So there we go. We got our nice thinned out area, filled in area. It looks pretty great. I don't have the shoe on hand, so I can't put the shoe in there for now, but I can assure you that it will be next to that kind of black color as well, so it will really stand out. It'll be mostly like that. And then it's got that nice transition from the tiny black shoe into the gray of her outfit, like that. So pretty good. I think that's pretty close-ish color, so we're good. Even though that's like a faded out picture printed on paper. So let's go back to, excuse me, keep the face real quick, which again faded out a little bit, but it's not too bad. So I'm gonna put one more layer in. Usually it takes me 1 or 2 layers to get this filled in. So we'll do that, and then what else do we have planned tonight? We can work on the bird a little bit, and then maybe start her eyebrows. We'll see how that goes. I had a color that might work for it. Oh, this is a very thick layer. Well, okay. That will probably solve the bleed issue, but at what cost? We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. Okay, so let's do some minor cleanup for now. Given that the orange slices are done and there's nothing else that we need to dry brush like that or brush like that, as far as I know, I'm gonna do a double check here. So let's see, do that. Okay, so we can clean up this pot. Oh, have a good one, Rebel Star. Thanks for dropping by, hanging out for a bit. I mean, she's really coming together, so hope you can make it next stream. Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Have a relaxing weekend. Alright, so we can clean this one up, this pot, not this one. You can probably clean up the Sakura one too, just because there's not really anything else we're gonna do with that. Any details in here, so these, it's hard to point at it. Like these tiny little dots, those can be from this thinned area, so this will come later. So yeah, we'll clean these two up. I think that's all we can clean up for now. There are other pots that we've been using, so we have like some greens and some darker blacks. Although, what did we use this black for? I don't even remember. I think this was her shoe detail, which at this point we have that other pot. So let's clean up this one as well. I'm trying to make it so we have some extra pots here because we're gonna need it. We're gonna save these two. I have this gray one here that could be used for her shoes. So I have the green, which I'll almost definitely need later for the skirt. This one over here. This might work for her eyebrows. I'm not sure, so we'll have to thin it and see. But there's not a lot of paint in there, so chances are, you know what, I'm just gonna clean that out. So let's clean these four real quick. And then let's start, we'll go from there. Yeah, there's still some time for some work tonight. So I also have these 2 dirty cups of thinner, so I'm just gonna pour the less dirty one into the dirty cup and clean out that one and put in some more thinner. The paint will eventually settle out of these thinners, and so what you can do is just kind of reuse it. But it does take a little while for all of it to settle out. So, all right, and what I'm actually gonna do is just wipe these out with lacquer thinner, because lacquer thinner can also be used to thin out enamel paint. It is a stronger solvent, and so it will eat into enamel very quickly. And so that's kind of why it's not recommended to paint lacquer on top of enamel, because your lacquer that you put onto it can potentially eat through the enamel, which you guys will see very shortly. It thins out extremely quickly and then just kind of dissolves everything. So I'm just getting some thinner from my jug here. Don't need too much. Okay. So I just have this little cup of thinner, and what I'm gonna do and what I typically do is just pipette some out and spill it into the cup. You can already see it starting to eat away at the thinner, or the enamel. So it dissolves it pretty quickly. I might regret doing this, but that's fine. Might need a little more, but that's fine. So usually what I do is I let it sit just for a moment or two, and then soak it all up with some sort of towel or anything. All right, so we'll just soak this one up first. Let me get another glove on. Like so. And it wipes most of it up, so then you usually just pipette a little bit more of the thinner in there. Need to get a little more thinner actually. Thought I had enough. Oh, okay. Not super exciting, but necessary stuff in order to keep the work flowing. Because it's not all painting fun times 100% of the time. There's a lot of cleanup involved. Alright. What I do sometimes after this is just wipe this out with Q-tip, and that will soak up any remaining enamel paint. And you want to make sure that it's nice and clean, because next time you put paint in it, you don't want it contaminated with whatever color you mixed before. Alright, this should be mostly good. Okay, let's do this one. There's not too much in here. If you don't have lacquer thinner on hand, enamel thinner will also work. I just tended not to use that really until recently, because I didn't have a good access of proper thinner. But now that I use kind of bulk thinner, you can just potentially soak it all up with that other stuff. Here's another one. This one had a lot of paint. This is a good way to use up your extra towels that you had in your airbrush booth too. So usually I just rip up an old one that's, you know, got lots of paint sprayed on it, and use that as the towel. Okay, this one's about clean. And the last one, let me get some like that. So just like old. This one had a lot in it too, so let's get some more. Almost done. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is pull out some white and really quickly put on some white dots on the eyes of the bird, because I'll pull it up in a second. The Maruchan bird doesn't have little beady black eyes. There's a very specific pattern to this bird that I do want to make sure that we capture, even though it's a very small detail. Just finish wiping this up. The rest of this will volatilize, so there we go. Alright, so now we got 4 new clean cups. That's great. That's exactly what we need. Put that over here. Alright, so let's see. Got our new thinner. Yep, we're good. Alright, so the Maruchan bird, or just the bird Megiddo, or Mero, whatever, has those really like white, it's a very strong white outline on the eye. And so we want to make sure that we get that kind of white in the eye before we put in the final black dot. And I think, as I've said before, the little bird on her head comes with these sculpted white eyes, or like little dots. And so what I'm not sure of is, do I want to only fill those in with white and then make a tiny, you know, black dot in the middle, or do I want to fill in the black and have big eyes and have that thin white outline? I don't know. So what we're gonna do is just put a white dot all around the outside and covering that whole thing, and then we'll move on to the face, because that's all that's left to do at this point and start. So, all right, so let's get one of these. Don't need a lot of paint. I think I'm just gonna take some white out, or whatever this is. Actually, that's probably not enough white. Get another thinner cup. There we go. Okay, so grab, where's my brush? There we go. Grab some more white. Okay, that should be good. What I do have, let me pull out another tool I have and maybe this will work. I have a little dotting tool that I've showed before on stream. Where are you though? Oh, there it is. Okay. So I have this little dot tool. And this is, I think, also used in nail art, that I found it really handy for putting down dots of white paint, whether you're painting eye shine or doing anything. And so I'm just curious if this will work for this real quick. My paint may or may not be thick enough, so we'll just have to see. Oh, it should be okay. You can see I'm making some dots. So you just push it and then there's a dot, so. Okay. So we'll see if this works. It's a little bit thinned. It's a little bit wide dot too. Don't know if that will work. Where's my sponge? Okay. Maybe if I put it right on the... Well, that would be good for the black dot. Maybe I'll just make a couple dots and then wipe it up later. Just kind of extend the surface. It's a little horrifying. This side worked a lot better. Okay, maybe I just need to approach it from the front of the face. So let me wipe this one off. That worked. Weird. Okay. There we go. Okay, so obviously not perfect right now. The goal is just to get the white on there, and then I'm gonna make little circles of it after. So you can see there's white on it, and that will be cleaned up later, just like everything else that we have been doing thus far. So no worries for that. Let's see, just making sure that I have this side's got all the white on it. It's better for me typically to add a little bit more and wipe away rather than not have enough and then end up having to add more. Yeah, that's good. Bird looks a little scary right now, but it's fine. I say that about a lot of faces until they're done. All right, so we'll just leave that for now, which means the only thing left on this that we can get to tonight is the face. And so let's take a look at her mouth. I'm also going to bring over the front hair piece because that will guide the color of how we paint the eyebrows, because ultimately we want her eyebrows to match the front of the hair pretty closely. A lot of people's eyebrows are pretty much the same color as their hair, or very similar, you know, in terms of it, unless you've like dyed your hair blonde and you have black eyebrows, or there's certain looks that are like unique, but for the most part eyebrow color tends to match people's faces pretty well. So let me grab the hair, just the front piece though. What we're going to do is mix this kind of yellowy color. That's like that. I do need to pull over my paints though, so I think at some point I had, yeah, I mostly used a couple of paints, so I believe in prior mixtures that I've done, I included white, and then I have these Tamiya ones. I have X15, which is light green, X5, which is like a dark forest green, and then the yellow, which I ended up using a lot of, the Guy Notes yellow, because it's more of a marigold color as opposed to the Tamiya color. So these are very different. This is like a cyan magenta yellow color yellow. And this is literally like a lemon color. So I opt for this one more, especially when concerning these pieces. Let's see, look at the face. This is thinned down, but now there's a hair in it. Oh my God, okay. So I'm just gonna say this was a wash for tonight, but let's take a look before. Does that color even match? Not sure. Looks kind of weird on the screen. Let's just wipe it out. This has been not great. I wasn't expecting to work on this today, and so that's probably why. Just failures, man. Alright, but what we can do is start the eyebrows at least. Usually eyebrows are not something that I do first, but because these are sculpted and because we already have the hair painted, there's not really any particular reason why they can't go first. All right, there we go. Her face does look kind of sickly. I think it's just because of that yellow skin tone, and that will, what may look like kind of crazy now, once we fill in the eyes, I tend to find that that balances things out a lot. When everything's flesh tone, it's kind of like weird and uncanny. All right, so before I do that, let's get this going. So last time I mixed this, I think I used mostly these colors. So I'm gonna put some stuff in here, and then what will happen is we'll probably mix this color and get it on the face. That's probably all we'll have time for tonight. Okay. This is a lot of yellow. Might screw me over later. Let's get some of this off. It's very thick right now. All right, the Tamiya light green is kind of a weird color. It doesn't feel very opaque. It feels like it's kind of more clear for whatever reason. And I usually have to mix the bottle like a lot. But it comes out this really kind of almost neon green. Looks neon on the screen, but it's not. Did my Spotify die again? Nope, I hear it. Okay. Put that here. Alright, so let's just start mixing stuff and see how it goes. Yeah, need a lot more green. Oh, we're already getting there though. what I'm gonna do is test the color against the hair, so just make like a little dot or something on the hair, and then we'll go from there. If the color matches the hair, then we can just put it on her eyebrows. And her eyebrows also have what look like we can put an outline around them. And so what will happen is we'll paint the eyebrows this base color, and then probably in the shading color outline them, or even a little darker green, and so that way they're really visible. That's pretty close. Let me take a quick look. Put on a glove. Feels kind of... Oh yeah, look at that. You can see the dot, but it's a very close match, so I think that's good. I'm gonna try it over here too and make sure that this is fine. Let's see, a little more maybe. It's a little bit lighter here. Oh wait, no. I think it just depends on the location. I think let's add a tiny bit of white to this mixture, because again, I might have that issue where I mix the color and I really like it, and then it ends up being like a shade darker once it dries up. So it really goes to show how yellow green this mixture was. We added that kind of yellowish Tamiya and then the marigold. That's pretty close too, so. Oops. Yep, that'll do. Let's stick with that for now and put it on the eyebrows and see where that takes us. Once it dries, we'll be able to compare it. I have green on my fingers, so 1 second. Just closing bottles and such. Hopefully that kind of shows you guys how to color mix sometimes. I know it's just a lot of like, I just do a lot of eyeballing, but there are basic components of stuff where, you know, if you see it looks like it has more yellow, then you add more yellow, but maybe not the lemon yellow because you need a darker one, and etc. All right, so I think that's good. Let me get my other glove on though. All right, so I'm gonna put this over here and move the face over here, and we're just gonna put some green right here on her eyebrows. We mixed a lot of color, but we're not painting all of that, obviously. Yep, that's green. Some whatever green eyebrows. We're gonna put a little bit more color on there and then let it soak in and wipe it off like what we did all night tonight. I am not used to painting green eyebrows though, I will tell you that. So this looks kind of weird to me. And I think it's also because she has this big old wide face. But a lot of that forehead gets completely covered. 1 second. mind. It was, I had a school email. All right, it's coming out a little bit wet though. My paintbrush is probably too small for this. Yeah, let me just put it on with the slightly bigger one. All right, definitely weird. Not used to the green eyebrow, especially when her skin is so pale. I'm not sure if putting the hair on will affect that right now, so I'm kind of want to put it on, but I also don't because I might mess up that paint layer. But you can see the color is, you know, a very, very close match, so we can know at least that it will match up. We'll have to let that dry, kind of flatten down, and then wipe off the surrounding area. But that's also a reason why this is such a good beginner kit, is you really don't have to do any eyebrow work on your own. You know, if you choose to use the decals, you don't have to paint eyes, and then you have these nice sculpted eyebrows, and so you don't have to paint those really nice thin anime lines either, because a lot of anime eyebrows are so precise and thin. Oops. All right, so let's clean that up. I think with that being said then, we're gonna end this stream a little bit early just because we're quite literally running out of things to paint. The next time that we meet up will be next Tuesday, and that will be March 15th. Oops, sorry, my paintbrush. We will be continuing work on the face, and I should probably have the skirt done at that point. We'll probably be working on the little bird, and then we've got some work on here to do, maybe, I'm not sure. So thanks so much for tuning in to this point. We're rapidly approaching the end. I hope you can stay with me until the end, because it's always a pleasure to do this and chat with you all. For now, I hope you all have a good night and a great weekend, and talk to you